Is Senator John Fetterman. Senator, it's great to have you this morning. Thank you so much for being here. Do you think there's a deal here? What is your reaction to all that has played out?
I mean, I've read 21 points, and now overall, I've been very pleased the way the president has backed Israel. I mean, as I do. I think I was the only Democrat that supported the Iranian nuclear facilities, and that's why I'm always willing to stand with the democratically elected leader of Israel. And I do think it's astonishing. You know, you have our allies are going to recognize Palestine when you have human beings held underground, tortured and starved, going on 2 years. And that is, and absolutely, it's a reward for Hamas. That's going to be their narrative. They're going to claim that's why we did 10/7, that birthed our nation, and that you can't ever give that to them. And I strongly reject any idea, especially now to talk about that when you have human beings. I mean, they are normalizing keeping human beings underground for 2 years and forcing them to dug their own graves. And now it's like, hey, let's give them a nation.
Yeah, and that's why really I wanted to talk to you about this, because you've been so practical on this issue. And you've been talking about the things that our audience cares about so much. So in terms of this deal, UN delegates walked out of the Netanyahu address on Friday in New York at the UN General Assembly. Why is there so much upset against Netanyahu?
Yeah, I watched that, and if you're leaving with Iran at the same time, really look at yourself. And it's like, what kinds of values do you have if you're going to walk out, on a speech of the leader of, and you are standing with Iran, one of the world's largest terrorism underwriter. What they've done, they financed what Hamas and Hezbollah and those things, and now look who you're walking out with. And now that's why I strongly reject that in the strongest terms. And I absolutely support the things what Israel has done. And I actually, even referencing the beepers, Hezbollah did get the message, just like the prime minister said. That's entirely appropriate. And now, why aren't we reminding Hamas could end this war? They could have ended this at any point to send all of the hostages home and disarm. I mean, that's how the way the wars work. Right. It's like if you start a war and you're forced to submit or just engage this war. And that's what Israel's forced to do that, and why I support what they continue to do in Gaza City.
So you do support that 21-point plan then?
I mean, I do want this war to end. Yeah. And I do hope that, but I mean, we'll see how that actually works out. But for me, like, I do not think it's entirely appropriate to recognize a two-state solution. For me, my non-starter is send all those hostages home. And now, right. First, we're going to agree, we're going to disarm. How can you pretend that you're going to have any real peace in the region if Hamas is about to occupy? It's just absurd at this point. I know that's put me kinds of as an outlier within the Democratic Party, but what history demonstrates is if you're willing to turn your back on the Jewish community, and now with Israel, I refuse to do that. And I do hope it does end. And I have watched and I have looked over the 21-point plan, and I agree with many of it. But for me, I'm going to stand with Israel through that. Ultimately, what's the right thing for Israel?
The point is you don't want to reward Hamas after what Hamas did, and I think that's what you're saying here. In terms of a Palestinian state, yeah.
Yeah, that's Hamas's point. They're going to claim, well, this is why that's all of this was over trying to create a new state. That's the narrative, and we can't give that to them because they have to be pushed into submission and disarm. And now, why has the media normalized, keeping hostages for 2 years and torturing people that way?
Unbelievable. How horrible.